I never thought I'd be one of those guys who saw the writing on the wall before it was spray-painted in neon. But something had been off with Sarah for months. Our marriage of 12 years was slowly unraveling, and I could feel it in every awkward silence, every calculated conversation. It started with small things. She became protective of her phone, always turning the screen away when I was nearby. Her work, late nights, became more frequent, and the passion we once shared seemed to have evaporated. I'm not a paranoid man, but my gut was screaming that something was wrong. I'm a forensic accountant, which means I've spent my entire career understanding how people hide things: money, assets, intentions. When I noticed Sarah starting to make subtle financial moves, my professional instincts kicked into overdrive. She began asking about our investments, our joint accounts, making comments about protecting our future that felt more like reconnaissance than genuine concern. One Saturday, while she was supposedly at a work conference, I did something I'm not proud of. I went through her email. Before you judge, understand that 12 years of marriage had taught me that Sarah was meticulous. If something was happening, there would be a digital trail. And boy, was there a trail. I found emails between her and a divorce attorney, drafting preliminary paperwork. Emails discussing asset division, potential alimony, even childcare arrangements for our 2 kids. The most damning part? These discussions had been ongoing for months, and she hadn't said a word to me. That's when I made my move. Not an emotional outburst, but a calculated professional response. I contacted my own attorney and began systematically protecting my assets. I didn't move everything, but I restructured investments, transferred some funds to accounts she couldn't easily access, and ensured that our children's future was secure. My strategy wasn't about revenge. It was about protection. Years of working financial fraud cases had taught me that preparation was always better than reaction. I kept everything legal, transparent, and documented. If she wanted a divorce, I would ensure it was fair, but I wouldn't be financially decimated. 2 weeks after my preparations, the bomb dropped. Sarah sat me down in our immaculate living room, the one she had meticulously decorated to showcase our perfect life, and served me divorce papers. Her eyes were cold, calculated. This wasn't a moment of emotional breakdown, but a strategic maneuver. Little did she know, I was several steps ahead. What Sarah didn't understand was that I had been watching, waiting, and preparing. My years of professional training had given me an edge she couldn't have anticipated. This wasn't going to be the clean, one-sided divorce she had planned. The game was just beginning, and I was ready. The first meeting with our lawyers was where things started to get interesting. Sarah's attorney, a sharp-looking woman named Karen Reynolds, came in with what she thought was a bulletproof strategy. She presented a settlement that would have left me with minimal assets, primary custody with her, and child support that would have crippled me financially. But here's where her plan began to unravel. During the preliminary discussions, I casually mentioned some digital forensics I'd conducted. Nothing accusatory, just a matter-of-fact statement about financial records and communication logs. The temperature in the room dropped several degrees. Sarah shifted uncomfortably, her perfectly manicured facade starting to crack. My lawyer, Mike Brennan, a bulldog in a tailored suit, began laying out the documentation I'd carefully compiled. Bank transfers, communication records, and most importantly, evidence of Sarah's ongoing relationship with her work colleague, Jason Miller. It wasn't just a suspicion anymore. We had concrete proof of her emotional affair, which had been brewing for months. The look on Sarah's face was priceless. She hadn't expected me to be this prepared. What she didn't know was that my job as a forensic accountant meant I had skills she couldn't even comprehend. I'd traced every suspicious transaction, every hidden communication. The digital trail she thought she'd carefully erased was actually a roadmap to her true intentions. Mike presented evidence of significant funds Sarah had been quietly moving. Not just small amounts, but substantial transfers that suggested she was planning a complete financial extraction. She wanted out, but she wanted to take everything with her. "Mr. Thompson," Mike said, sliding over a thick folder, "perhaps you'd like to explain these transactions to the court?" Sarah's lawyer tried to object, but the damage was already done. The carefully constructed narrative of a wife seeking a fair divorce was crumbling faster than a house of cards in a hurricane. The most devastating moment came when we discussed the children. Sarah had assumed she'd get primary custody, but the evidence of her emotional unavailability and potential instability was mounting. Her plan of a clean break was turning into a nightmare. What she didn't realize was that I had been documenting everything. Every late night, every suspicious interaction, every moment she was emotionally absent from our family. I wasn't just protecting my assets, I was protecting my children's future. During a brief recess, Sarah approached me. Her confident demeanor was gone, replaced by a mixture of panic and desperation. "We can talk about this," she whispered, but it was too late. The carefully orchestrated plan she'd been months in preparing was falling apart. The game of chess I never knew we were playing had just taken a dramatic turn. And I was winning, not through aggression, but through careful, methodical preparation. Little did I know, the most shocking revelations were yet to come. The next hearing was where everything completely unraveled. What Sarah didn't anticipate was the depth of my investigation. During the proceedings, my lawyer presented evidence that went far beyond a simple emotional affair. Jason Miller, her supposed work colleague, wasn't just a passing romantic interest. He was deeply entangled in a complex financial scheme that had been brewing for months. Through my forensic skills, we'd uncovered that Sarah and Jason were planning more than just a relationship. They were planning a complete financial takedown of our marriage. Bank records showed multiple suspicious transfers. Jason had been moving money through a complex network of shell companies, with Sarah's knowledge and apparent cooperation. What started as a simple divorce plan had metamorphosed into something that looked suspiciously like financial fraud. The courtroom went silent when Mike presented the evidence. Sarah's lawyer, Karen, looked like she wanted to disappear. Sarah herself had gone pale, her carefully composed exterior cracking under the weight of mounting evidence. "Ms. Thompson," Mike said, his voice cutting through the tension, "perhaps you'd like to explain these transfers?" Silence. The most shocking revelation came when we discovered that Sarah and Jason had been planning to liquidate several joint investments, moving the funds through offshore accounts. Their plan wasn't just a divorce, it was a calculated financial extraction that would have left me and our children with virtually nothing. But I had been one step ahead. By moving my assets early and documenting everything, I'd created a comprehensive paper trail that not only protected my interests but also exposed their scheme. The turning point came when Jason was subpoenaed. His testimony began to crumble under cross-examination. What emerged was a picture of a carefully planned financial betrayal that went far beyond a simple extramarital affair. Sarah's backpedaling began almost immediately. The confident woman who had served divorce papers 2 months ago was now desperately trying to salvage what remained of her reputation and her financial standing. "I want to withdraw the divorce filing," she mumbled during a private conference with the lawyers. But it was too late. The damage was done. The legal machinery was already in motion, and the consequences of her actions were becoming clear. Our children, thankfully, were shielded from the worst of it. I made sure they never heard the details, protecting them from the ugly truth of their mother's betrayal. In the end, Sarah lost more than just the divorce battle. Her professional reputation was in tatters. The company she worked for began an internal investigation based on the financial irregularities we'd uncovered. Jason was fired, and Sarah faced potential legal consequences beyond the divorce proceedings. As for me, I wasn't looking for revenge. I was looking for justice, for myself and for our children. The assets I'd carefully protected would now ensure their future, despite their mother's attempts to destroy everything we'd built. Sometimes, being prepared isn't just about protecting yourself. It's about protecting those who depend on you. The divorce was finalized 3 months later. But the real victory wasn't in the legal documents. It was in knowing that I had protected my family when it mattered most.